Good morning, everybody, on this gorgeous, beautiful, lovely day. And do you want to know why it's so lovely? Because I get food, and that's good. I want food. So I'm going to be running you guys through peak week plans for the photo shoot, which is in 3 days now. The carb up, the depletion day, the last training session that I'm doing, and all of that good stuff, as well as a little bit of the details about why we're doing this sort of thing. And you know, the boring, nerdy, sciencey stuff. So let's get into it. So, meal number one here, 100 grams of oats, mixed berries, and some dark chocolate with a little bit of whey. The protein here is not crazy. We want to pull down that total amount of protein just so that it can speed up absorption and make some more room for carbohydrates. And with those carbohydrates and just what you're doing generally for a peak week, a mistake a lot of people make is they don't understand that it needs to be as predictable as possible. Everything that you're doing, you should be able to make with pretty good degree of confidence that, you know, this is going to work well. And that's why it fucking blows my mind when people are like, oh yeah, I'm carving up, I'm just going to have a burger and fries. You mean that food that you haven't eaten for the last 20 weeks that you've got no idea what could do to your digestion? Yes, it could make you fucking look sick and have a great pump, but it could also make you way, way worse. Anything that's got the potential to make you a lot better is probably more likely to make you way worse. Whereas a bowl of oats and some chicken and rice meals and some potato meals is not going to make me worse. It's just going to give me more glycogen. It's what I've been eating the whole time. I know I digest well with it. The only extra variable is the amount of food here, which isn't crazy. And I've already had this for one of my higher carb days. So again, we know that it's going to be okay. After that meal, I was doing a little bit of work on a coaching call with the PT Project guys, going through one of my clients that is training around scoliosis. And then it was time for the third meal, which is chicken, rice, pineapple, and some cashew butter because it's very, very nice. And a quick ab check to check that they are still there. Oh, yes. How are we doing? You might be wondering why my face is looking a little bit brown. Have I just been on holiday in the middle of this video? The answer to that is a big fat no. Your man has had a spray tan. Unfortunately, it's not as dark as the one that I had when I competed. That was like legitimately cultural appropriation. This is just a conventional I'm from Essex spray tan. So not so extreme, but still pretty damn dark. So just had meal number two there, which is exactly the same as what I ran on the high day. 150 grams of chicken mince because I like chicken mince. It's way better than chicken breast. 90 grams raw white rice because it's always better raw. 100 grams of pineapple as usual with that meal, and then an additional 20 grams of cashew butter. And if you haven't tried cashew butter with or just almond butter with your like chicken and rice, it's really, really good, especially with some beef. Some beef? No, that'd be mank. With some banana, I was going to say, or with some pineapple there. That's really, really good. So I'm just off to train shortly. I don't know why I'm slapping myself. Normal bodybuilders slap machines. I just slap myself. Great. So the goal of that is to keep fatigue really, really low. 2 reps in reserve. Keep that fatigue nice and low. As I say, we're not trying to get really, really sore from this session. Just get some blood in the muscle, aid in nutrient partitioning, all of that sort of thing there, because I have started to accumulate a little bit of fluid, and I can see that in today's check-in shots. I'm like, I don't like these so much because salt's been way, way higher. Water's been a bit higher as well, and I will run you guys through that after the training session, sort of what we're doing there and how that feeds into the overall peaking process. So I'll see you all shortly. Lining your shoulder up with the axis of the machine on a lateral raise just isn't important, because as you go through a lateral raise motion, the position of your shoulder changes so much. So all I want you to think about is getting it roughly right in the start position, maybe a little bit below, because as you go through it, it's going to come up a little bit, okay? The position really isn't that. At the end of the day, it's really not that deep. That's what she said. If you want to make your lateral raises more length and bias, something that I hear nobody talking about is how your tempo influences this. So what I want you to do is when you're in that lengthened position, start off nice and slow, and then start to accelerate as you get through the mid and into the short range. Because you're spending less time in the shortened position, it's not quite so fatiguing when you're on a short and focused exercise like this. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, mate, the carb pumps hit different. Wow, that is some serious connection. Simply sitting your ass down on an incline bench does not make it an upper chest exercise. What we need to look at is the path of motion that you are moving through and how that interacts with the resistance. So, if we're looking at the fibers of the upper chest, the direction of that is going to look something like this: straight line along here, as if the pec comes from the inside of your arm and sets up onto the clavicle. So we want to be moving something like that. We don't just want to come wide. We then want a resistance that is shoving back on us, directly opposing that ideal upper chest path. Okay? Not just sitting your ass down on an incline bench and grabbing some dumbbells just because, or even worse, doing it on a cable or a machine. And if you're looking for more tips when it comes to growing your upper chest, DM me the word pecs and I'll send you a free guide. As bodybuilders, we can learn quite a lot from meditation practice, and that's not in some sort of wanky, holier than thou way. It's simply just the practice of focusing on what you are doing. And that is something that is key to apply into your working setting. So as I'm getting myself into position for this top set, this all or nothing, I've got to put my everything into it. I'm not going to fuck around too much, despite what you would have just seen. I'm going to pop my hands into place. I'm just going to gently push on my handles because that's what I've got into the habit of doing and makes me feel comfortable and safe and whatever the hell else. I'm then going to nicely close my eyes, imagine that first rep, and gently just move my arms into the position they're going to be in for that working set. I've already imagined the first rep, and here's the second. No. And as I said earlier, I'm not trying to completely exhaust myself here. I'm aiming for 2 reps in reserve. So when I start to see that rep speed slow down is when I'm like, okay, let's not take the piss here, Luke. Let's call it a day. Let's move on to the next exercise because we're just trying to help with nutrient partitioning in a session. This is not building me any muscle. I'm way too deep in the trenches for that. The biggest pec fly mistake that is costing you some serious gain is thinking about what your hands are doing, okay? That has no influence on what's going on with your chest. You see people in the gym and they're putting their hands together and like, yeah, that's a rep, that's a rep. But the pecs can do that motion there. Yes, the hands are about the same distance, but the position of your upper arm is vastly different. So what I want you to think about the next time you're going through a pec deck, a cuff fly, if you're into that sort of stuff, is just queuing those biceps together and your chest is going to thank. I won't be able to show you this because the pin and the stuff with that stuff is behind the machine, but what I've done is pin the stack, which is basically where you lift the weight up and then pop the pin in a few down so that you can see almost a few of the metal holes in the machine. And that essentially means that we've got this slack portion at the bottom because I don't know about you, but I don't have this ridiculous amount of shoulder range that it's asking for here. So by doing that, I can easily get into position and use my energy on a working set, not getting into position. There's 3 ways to train your forearms. During your pulling, doing some separate isolation work for them, or at home. And it still continues to baffle me that people think you shouldn't use straps for your pulling work. Okay. Your entire back, your entire posterior chain is always going to be stronger than the muscles in the bottom of your arm. It's just how it works. And considering it takes literally a couple of minutes to completely obliterate your forearms with some isolated work, why wouldn't you get a massive back and then spend 2 minutes extra in the gym? So again, another 2 grams of salt in this meal, making it a total for 12 for the day. And the reason that we up the salt a little bit is just to help with the partitioning of nutrients. I'm going to be drinking more water to help shuttle those carbohydrates into the muscles so that I look half decent. Now, that is going to mean that I'm going to look quite watery and fluidy tomorrow. I've already started to see that today, but we're all going to wash that off with one more low day to get me looking pretty dry, a little bit of peak max going in, and I'll run you guys through that in the next video there. So whilst I might look a little bit shitter today, I'm going to look better tomorrow, which is always ideal. Now, we're onto the dual arm pull down here. I'm just going to adjust this because it felt a little bit too high on the previous one. And whenever I do that, like every single time, I remember the story of Dusty Hanshaw, IFBB Pro bodybuilder. He was talking about one prep where his goal was just to get completely inside out skinned. Funnily enough, that's my goal for my next prep. And what he noticed is that at some point he actually had to put this on a setting lower. And he was like, well, hang on a second. I haven't got any shorter here. And if I got any shorter, we would be fucked. I would be well and truly fucked. So which means that he must have lost muscle in his quad. And that's something you want to bear in mind, okay? You need to make sure that you are dieting sensibly so that you don't lose muscle as you go through that phase, because nobody wants to end up really fucking small. So in order to do that, make sure you're keeping that rate of loss sensible. If you are going quite extreme, doing it for a short period of time, making sure that you're training hard and ticking off all your basic macronutrients, and you're probably going to be all right. Like most of the people that think they lose muscle mass probably were just too fat and thought they were bigger than they were, because fat's going to contour muscle at the end of the day. Anyway, enough chatting shit. Let's set up for this. I'm going to do 2 sets on here, and then I split my upper back work across the row over there and a high rep set of pull downs in a second. Again, super, super easy here, because the goal is not to generate a fuck ton of fatigue or build muscle mass. It's just to keep the tissue I have. It appears that I am, in fact, that complete and utter bellend who gets a spray tan and then decides that it is acceptable to pose topless in the gym. But when there's a goon light that is just this good, it is frankly unacceptable to not take advantage of it. Although it doesn't make the back shots look the best just because of how the downlighting works. But if you're trying to toast your upper back on a pull down, it's not just about how wide you're pulling your arms. You also need to position your torso in a way in which the scapular retractors, the traps, the rhomboids, are going to be able to do that work. Okay, so taking a nice lean back can work pretty well. Now, not so much you feel like you're going to be pulled out of the seat, or you're just turning it into a weird, unsupported row type of thing. But a little bit. It's going to make it feel a little bit nicer. Adam, can you give me a hand, please, mate? I thought I'd get it. And then I put it up 20, and it's like, yeah, no. Yep. Legend. Cheers. Online influencers with genetics straight out of Zeus's schlong will tell you that you should feel a certain exercise here or here. But in reality, the differences from one person to the next that I have seen over my years of coaching can be huge. An exercise like this should hurt my elbows, but it doesn't. It feels great. And that's far more important than what somebody who has never met you says about a certain movement. Your own experience is hugely important when it comes to training in an evidence-based way. Please do not disregard that. You've heard about the glorious benefits of the length and range. You want to get yourself some of that, but just raising the cable height up to here does not guarantee that you're challenging your biceps in the lengthened position, because I'm seeing more and more people set up for this exercise and they're just letting their shoulder dump backwards like that. That's not lengthening the bicep. What we want to do is slowly take the shoulder backwards into extension until you find that maximum point. Hold that as you go through your curls. All of this here is just scapular movement. And then it's the exact same position in terms of the challenge as you were in if you just got the cable on the floor. If you don't have the skill to hold your arm back in this position and curl at the same time, just go with a normal cable curl. And then getting a slightly more objective look at how my physique is doing with some bright light in on a pretty dark background here. The tan is making me look a little bit better there, not quite so Casper the Ghost. What we can see here is that there is some fluid on my physique. Okay, that's just part of carving up. You can't go, oh, I only want extra fluid and fullness in the form of glycogen in the muscle. That's not how it works. Your body can't only send it to one place. It's just going to store a bit more water everywhere. That's okay. And then I popped some posing trunks on, but the tan lighting or the tan lines here were not particularly pleasant. But again, happy with how the shots are developing. So we've got a day of drying off tomorrow, and then I should be looking in peak condition for the photo shoot. So the YouTube video will be coming next week of that for you guys. At this point, I am absolutely starving. The meal was supposed to be the same as meal one, but I was happy to swap the macros out again to foods that I am used to having, which is just some cream of rice, some dark chocolate to get the extra fats that the oats wouldn't have had, or the oats would have had, and then mix that all together with some whey paste on top and some blueberries. I was just about to start the evening work block, and I was thinking, what have I forgot to do? Well, I forgot to talk about my cream of rice, didn't I? So we had a very, very stressful evening. Got out of the gym, Milton Roundabout, stand still for 15, 20 minutes, which is not ideal. I then go to Boots to pick up my prescription, which they told me would be there today because I ordered it this morning. And they were like, yeah, it'll be here. It'll be fine. We get there and they're like, oh, it's not here. You see, the place that we ordered it from is 2 days away, so it won't be here till tomorrow. Well, I'm like, well, you know how far away it was this morning. Why did you tell me to come in today? Like, what? What is wrong with your brain? And then I'm like, okay, can you text me when it arrives? And the guy looks at me like he doesn't know how text messages work. Baffling, absolutely baffling. But yeah, I was supposed to have oats there, but I wanted cream of rice, and if it fits your macros, what is this simple, mate? So I just swapped over the macros there, ended up having 100 grams of core, 100 grams of blueberries there, same amount of whey, 30 grams, so literally just enough to tick off my minimum protein, and then the rest of the meal is carbs, because that's what today is about. It is about the carbs. And then 20 grams of dark chocolate as well. And that was absolutely lovely. Thoroughly enjoyed that. I could eat the whole thing once again. So, final meal is just about to be eaten. I've got 150 grams of beef mince there, 400 grams of raw white potato, and then the usual veg of carrot, courgette, mushroom. This is more than I've actually named. Peppers, some cucumber, which you can tell I've been dieting if I like cucumber because it's basically just water, iceberg lettuce, tomatoes, and then I'm going to pop some peri sauce and the French's classic yellow mustard, because it's nice, because I like it. And you don't need to cut out your sauces just because you're peaking. If you've been having them the whole time, it's probably not going to affect things that much. And speaking of peaking, obviously it's the end of the video and I probably should have done this at the start, but we're doing this now. I've done 2 high carb days like this here, and then I'm going to do 1 more day on the low food, which is going to reduce the amount of fluid that's on my physique and bring out a bit more of the detail, but with the extra fullness that I've just gained here. Okay, that is the broad outline of everything, and then I've obviously got the peak on Saturday morning, which I will have a little bit of food for, train some legs, eat some steak, and it will be lovely. So that is the outline of everything and what we're going to be doing. Stay tuned, because another YouTube video will be in your ears, on your screen very, very soon. Now I'm going to watch the end of Rings of Power and cry about how bad it is. And I have forgotten to plug coaching, so this is the only opportunity before I finish the video. So if you would like some help when it comes to getting in some solid shape, maybe even photo shoot condition, I don't know why I'm holding up the mustard, but I am, then just pop me a message and we will go through the details of how all that works. Now, I'm going to eat some potatoes. Subscribe, please.